What's going on? My name is Amy. Welcome to the channel. I'm a 6 months beginner day trader, and in today's video, I want to share 3 hacks that I'm personally using to help build confidence as a beginner trader. Because I'm sure, as you can understand, if you're new, like under a year you've been trading, it is a catch-22 when they say you got to have confidence in your trading in order to get better, right? Well, the problem is confidence often comes from having successes, which we equate to having a P&L that is positive, right? We're making profit over loss. And if you're not there yet consistently, you could be wondering like, well, how in the heck am I supposed to be a confident day trader when I haven't had the wins that support that confidence? So I'm gonna share 3 hacks that I'm using. I'm gonna throw in a bonus one too at the end about just what I'm personally doing, because it relates to other things I've achieved in my life. And I said, you know what, based upon this foundation I've been studying personal development since 2014. And there's a system, there's a way to kind of like plan this out, not to a science exactly, but I know there's certain habits and certain things I've done in the past that got me to achieving certain levels in life. And, you know, a lot of that equated to things with business, but I believe it transfers just the same. So number 1, I have to tell you a backstory on this. I'll give you what it is and I'll tell you my backstory. So affirmations. Sounds woo-woo, new age, whatever. I don't care. They work. And I'll tell you how they work, because there's ways that you can say affirmations and you can basically, it's not going to work, okay? But the way I used it, this goes back to 2020, January 2020, I decided I was going to officially get a motorcycle and I was going to learn how to actually ride. I had taken the motorcycle safety class 12 years prior. And I was like, one day, I'm gonna get a bike when the timing's right, when I have, the ability to have an extra vehicle, when I'm not moving around so much, yada, yada. That year was the year. And I got a bike without knowing how to ride it. And it had been so long since I took the class, it was like ridiculous, right? Probably should have taken another class, but I just was like, nope, parking lot practice, I'm just gonna go out and freaking do it. So when I realized that there was this immense barrier to the learning curve, it takes a lot of mental processing, hand-eye coordination. You're using every limb, okay? You're using, you got your clutch hand, you got your brake hand, you got your shifting gears left foot, brake on the right for the rear. And then you're just constantly like reviewing things. I realized how difficult it was and how much fear I had around actually getting out on the road and becoming a competent rider. So by that point, I've been studying personal development for like 6 years. And I was like, you know what? This has helped me in the past. I'm gonna create like an affirmation for myself. And I'm gonna use this affirmation to just build that confidence that I don't yet have. And I told myself, this was my affirmation. And by the way, you can speak it, because words have power when you speak it out loud. But if you don't feel that necessary, this works just as well. In fact, I don't think I ever actually spoke this out loud. It was always in my head. But my affirmation was, I am a I'm an excellent skilled motorcycle rider was my initial one. And then later I added the word safe in there. So I'm an excellent, skilled, safe motorcycle rider. And in the beginning, you have this affirmation, feel free to write it down, cements it a little bit. I do believe I did write it down. And, the first like 50 times, 100 times, 200 times, 500 times, I'm telling myself this. And I would repeat it like before every ride, during the ride, like randomly throughout the day, just whenever the thought came to me, I would think it. And there was so many times where I just like, oh my gosh, like I feel so far away from this being a reality. Like your subconscious mind, your conscious mind really is going to resist. It's going to be like, no, you're not. You suck. You just started like, 2 weeks ago. You can barely do a turn in a parking lot. Like, you're not skilled, you're not excellent, and you certainly ain't safe yet because you don't even know what safety means. And all of these thoughts are going to come up, right? So in relation to trading, picking an affirmation that just feels like, if this happened, I'm going to feel really good, right? To build confidence. Again, it's going to feel like a total lie. You're going to be telling yourself something that is literally not true yet, okay? But on some plane, on some other reality, because this is how everybody's journey is going to go. In the beginning, you're going to suck. And then you're going to suck a little bit less, and you're going to suck a little bit less. And so eventually you're okay as a trader. And then you might actually get kind of good. And then you might get really good. And then there's that top 10% of people who are excellent, amazing, whatever. So in the beginning, it's like I said, it's going to feel like a total outright lie. But for example, I told myself, there's two keys to working here. There's two keys that are going to fall into place for me to feel like that this reality is achievable, what I really want: confidence and profitability. So for me, my affirmation is something along the lines of, I am a confident, highly profitable day trader. And, of course, I think this now, and it's like, because it ain't there yet, okay? But let me tell you what happened with the motorcycle stuff. So back a few years, back in 2020, I had been riding 4 months, and I said, you know what? I'm starting to feel a little bit like, okay, I'm ready for my next bike. I started on a Kawasaki beginner sport bike, and I said, I'm ready to go to a 600, cc. I'm ready to bump up. Starting to feel it, starting to actually, I was putting in the time, putting in the hours, putting in the miles, was going out on my own, which was so terrifying in the beginning because I lived out in the country in Florida, and I, was like, okay, I'm on these roads I'm not familiar with. I'm out in the country, I've got my phone, I've got maps and whatnot, but it was still very uncomfortable. And the fact that I was riding solo kind of made me like, okay, well, I'm only gonna ride so far away from my home, and then I'm gonna turn around. And, there were certain things that I had to just keep doing, and the affirmation helped because every time I'd go for a ride, I'd get this it made me feel like this is getting into a trade, just ooh, my heart's pounding, I'm nervous, I'm sweaty. I'm like, okay, all right, I can do this. I'm going on the bike. I am an excellent, skilled, safe motorcycle rider, just over and over and over and over. And just having the affirmation will push you to actually doing the activities that will lead you to eventually becoming that person, okay? So 4 months in, I switch up. I go to a faster bike. And I started to feel a little bit more confident because I made a decision that the second bike I would have lowered. Because the first bike, I could only put one foot down, and it always made me nervous, being in a parking lot, being at a stoplight, I always had to have 1 foot down to balance the bike. I could never put both feet down. And, just the top heaviness of the bike and everything, I was like, you know what, next bike, screw that, I'm getting a lowered bike. And so I dropped this Gixxer I had, Suzuki bike, and all of a sudden, I was like, oh man, both feet on the ground. I feel confident if I come up to a stop and there's gravel or sand or something, and I can put both feet down and not, worry that I'm gonna slip with my 1 foot. And, it's just little things like that started to add up. And I just kept riding. And, I tried to go as often as I could. Florida has these horrible rainy seasons where, it might be an entire month where you can barely ride because it rains so much. But I just kept putting in the time. And at some point, it wasn't a specific day, okay? And this is how I'm sure it's gonna happen with trading. It's not gonna be a specific, oh my gosh, this is my one breakthrough day, I did it, right? That the affirmation will actually become reality. And when that happened for me with the bike, it was subtle at first, but then I was like, okay, by then I also had a dirt bike, and I was on another Gixxer. I'd bought a brand new Gixxer 750. And so, I'm up to bike number 4 or whatever. And I was I actually feel like I'm most of these qualities. Maybe I'm not excellent yet or super skilled, but I'm skilled enough to get out on the road, be safe and whatnot. And I think somewhere along the lines of my turning point was August 2021 when I got one of the fastest bikes ever made in production. And by that point, I knew the affirmation had worked, had gotten me that far. By that point, I had my 4 bikes and I put a lot of miles and everything. So I had this experience behind it. And I knew that was sort of next level. And I said, okay, for me to continue on this affirmation working, I'm going to adjust it slightly. So I said, I'm an excellent, skilled, safe motorcycle rider, and I can handle any bike I want. And that was a game changer because it kind of opened my mind to attempting to go for this really fast sport bike. I know I wasn't crazy on the bike. I wasn't going to do stupid stunts. I wasn't going to race people on the highway or, try to do 150 miles an hour on public roads or anything stupid like that. And I had built that trust in myself. So that's going to lead me into number 2 of the hacks here. Thank you for staying with me because I feel like it's important for me to share this story so that you understand why the affirmation works and then how it leads into the next stuff. But number 2, okay, so you're using your affirmation, but you're like, oh, total lie. I'm not profitable. I'm not, confident yet as a day trader. So what can I build upon confidence-wise? Well, for me, I'm starting to look back at my almost 6 months total now of being consistent with risk management, okay? I have not blown any accounts. I have a big chunk of capital still left. I didn't have any, horrible red days. I've had a couple red days that were, outside the norm of my normal, like what I would risk. Certain little glitches and things would happen, but nothing crazy where I felt like my trust for myself went out the window. I think when you perform in a way where you feel like the next trade, I gotta have these tight rules and everything because I can't trust myself, that is a big erosion on your self-confidence. So for me, when I look back and I say, Amy, you've done well in that you have really tightened your risk management up. You're properly using stops, even if it's mental. I've been able to trust myself to exit the trade when I say I'm going to exit the trade. I've been writing out plans before I enter the trade, so I kind of know, okay, what are my parameters here? What do I do if it's time to bail or, just trying to get those bigger profits and things. But keeping the risk management tight and just being able to say, I trust myself. Like I can get in a trade and I know that my emotions are not going to get the better of me. It doesn't mean I'm not emotional sometimes. I just know that I'm disciplined enough to follow through on, for the most part, what I say I'm going to do. Do I still exit trades too early? Yeah. Do I sometimes set my stop loss too tight? Yeah. But at least it's not on the other side where, I let losers run and stuff get out of hand or take position sizes I shouldn't be taking. The fact that I have been trading super small position sizes for, I think, like I said, I've shared this in another video. I think it's been since like middle of March. So April, May, so two and a half months that I've been doing this. And the fact that I haven't just gone crazy one day and been like, screw this 1, 2, 5 share positions. I'm going for 500. I've never done that. I've never slipped up like that. I never even felt so inclined. And I think just me personally being a highly disciplined person, having habits, success habits, personal development habits. I work out like 5 to 6 days a week. I walk like a ton of steps every day. There's certain things that for me became musts that I'm like, there's no deviation from, right? So that has helped with my trading. So because I've had that built foundation, I've been able to carry that over into trading, and I do have something that I can build confidence upon. What I just said, all those things that I've kept in my parameters, right? And so if you've got something in your trading that you've been able to say, hey, I was really bad at this one thing and now I'm not so bad at it, or like me, you've just been good with risk management, or maybe you've just taught yourself to trade really small, take very small position sizes, or you're disciplined enough to say, if it ain't an A+ quality setup according to my specific strategy, I ain't getting in, no matter how tempting, right? All those things add up. That builds your confidence, okay? So having all these wins and everything is huge, right? The affirmation, telling yourself, over and over until facts become reality. I'm telling you, this stuff is crazy, but it's literally how you can change your mindset and you can change your life, Then having these things built up around you, right? So all of these things make a huge difference, okay? So now getting into number 3. So number 3 is something that even if you have literally just started day trading like last week or you're starting tomorrow, whatever, you can actually use this to build confidence because it doesn't require any kind of history with trading itself. And that is the time that you devote to learning this craft. Okay, so the time you spend watching YouTube videos, watching courses, watching a mentor, joining, program, reading books, studying the level 2, whatever it might be that you feel like can push the needle forward in your trading, that time you spend learning is like making little deposits, okay, at the bank. Might just be feeling like pennies and nickels and dimes and quarters in the beginning. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff to learn. Like, this is overwhelming. How in the world am I ever going to understand all this stuff? It's like learning a new language, really, it is. But you keep putting in deposits. And at some point, as you execute, as you actually do the trading and you start taking the concepts that you learn and you're studying candlestick charts and the patterns and, what's a bull flag, what really constitutes a momentum trade, how to learn level 2 data. As you start taking all these little things and you're putting them in your head and then you execute, you'll start to actually feel more confident because you'll say, oh, wow, like I remember the first time I saw an actual pattern on the chart. And I believe it was an inverse head and shoulders pattern. And I was so excited because I'd been watching charts and trading for months and, reading all these different books. And of course, I'd heard of that pattern, several times, many times. And then one day I just saw it on my own. And I was like, and it was light bulb moment. And I felt so good about myself because I was like, yes, finally, all the studying and the, absorbing information, even when it feels like your head's going to explode, but being consistent, just about every single day. Maybe one day a week I might completely not study anything about trading, but for the most part, 6 to 7 days a week, I'm learning something every single day. And when that moment happens and you actually execute and you perform a winning trade, like that just blows up your confidence, and all of a sudden you can go from feeling like you know nothing to like, oh my gosh, I know a little bit. Even if you're new though, and you haven't done any trades or you haven't even had a green trade yet, the fact that you're putting in that time, you should pat yourself on the back. You should feel good about that because some people will just willy-nilly jump into this thinking it's number 1, get rich quick scheme. Number 2, it's easy. Number 3, my neighbor Billy Bo Bob told me to buy this thing at this time at this price, and I'm got in it. And whether they have beginner's luck or not, there's no confidence behind that. You're putting your confidence in somebody else's plan and strategy. So this is a very controllable way to build your confidence in yourself for trading because you control your time. You control how much you're willing to invest in programs, books, courses, classes, whatever it might be. For me, one of the things that's really helped me is to have a consistent schedule where every afternoon or early evening, I watch one of my mentors' videos on YouTube and I take notes. So I'm absorbing, watching how he's trading, watching how he analyzes the chart and all that stuff, all that data, even if it's just him talking about the trade of the day or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's all going in here and it's building up a bank of knowledge. And you might say, well, I'm going to use some of this. I'm going to discard some of this. That's fine. When you're learning, that's what it's about. It's about sifting through a ton of information until you start to narrow in and you find that one person. You're like, I like the way they trade. I want to trade like that. You're aligned with it. Suits your personality, suits your style. Go for it. But that third thing is what I'm trying to drill home here is the fact that you control that part of the confidence equation. okay? Number one, with the affirmation, saying that over and over and over again, you also control that, but it will take time before that sinks in and actually becomes a reality. And even if you feel like the worst day trader in the world, you made stupid mistakes, stupid losses, stupid trades, keep saying it. I'm telling you, keep saying it. I felt like such a beginner when I first started riding. I was just terrified. Like you know how people wave to each other when they're on motorcycles? They do this kind of like thing on, they wave to each other. I was so rigidly focused on riding and doing everything correctly. I would just be like, I was scared to even lift my hand off the handlebar to wave at anybody. But I kept saying that affirmation, kept drilling it in. And then, number two, having confidence based upon whatever discipline and habits you've built into your trading routine. Just, if that helps you feel like a confident trader, keep doing it. If it's helping in any way, shape, or form, even if it's not showing up in your P&L yet, it probably isn't, but it's helping you with your mindset. It's helping you approach things with a strategic way. It's helping you to build a foundation, build a plan, build a strategy. Keep doing it. And then like number three, again, the learning, the time you put in, I shouldn't just say time. It's not just about the time. That is part of it, because it does take time, but the amount you're willing to invest. For some people, the amount relates to time. And for some people, you might have to put actual dollars on the line. For me, I always have to put actual dollars on the line. So I invested in a bunch of books in the beginning and just try to learn as much as I could about trading in the markets. And I bought one guy's course, and I kind of later was like, you know what, this isn't my strategy. It's good information, but it's not me. I want to keep learning. So, that kind of led me to another mentor. And I said, it was all good that I bought this other course, because had I not invested some money and figured out what I didn't want to trade like, maybe I wouldn't have made the decision to trade like this other guy. And I think every little dollar that goes towards yourself, that is an important investment. You can't say it doesn't help in some way, shape, or form. Even if you never use the information, you're like, okay, discard all of that, right? And I know now what I don't want to trade. So yeah, I think for some people it's time, but I think oftentimes it's dollars. And for me also, actually losing money in the market, that to me was better than learning in a sim. In the beginning, my losses were a little bit larger because I was initially willing to do it that way. And then I said, you know what, let's get better at the strategy and the technique. And then, let's just trade super small instead of going to a simulator. And for me, I think that's just been more beneficial. So those three things, building up, and then final bonus tip, okay, to build confidence. I believe that anything you can give back to another trader, especially someone who's just coming up right behind you, maybe you're 6 months in like me and you're talking with somebody who's 2-3 months in, and you can give them, some kind of advice, even if it's like, hey, here's what not to do, buddy. I made XYZ mistake, and maybe this helps you that I tell you don't do these things, right? Or maybe by that point you've found a strategy that you really like trading and you're starting to get a little bit of momentum going. Share with somebody, like lift another trader up. It's funny how that works, but in life, this is to me like just a general success principle that if you help other people achieve and get what they want, you're going to get everything you want. Okay. So hope this video helps you. Feel free to check out my day trading resources down below. It's a Google working doc that I'm adding, all kinds of stuff to, that anything that's helped me in my trading thus far, putting it in there, specific videos, books, and things like that. A lot of people will ask, who did you learn from, or what do you watch, and what do you study? So all that's in there. And then of course, Amy's Trading Tribe on Telegram. Come trade with us. It's a free Telegram group. We jump in there. Usually there's people in there about 7 a.m. Eastern to start trading the pre-market. And you can chat back and forth. And I usually jump in there, an hour and a half after the pre-market starts. Just because I'm on Pacific. It's rough, y'all. So come on and join us. Links down below for Amy's Trading Tribe and my day trading resources. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.